Hi guys. All right. This is take two. I was realizing that there were some issues with the first take and you guys couldn't necessarily hear what I was saying. So we're going to try again. Anyways, it is, hopefully everybody can kind of join on again. It is Wednesday. It is finally the last week in March. Thank God. I am so over winter. I am sick yet again. No one ever tells you that when you have a baby in daycare that you will basically be sick for the rest of your life. So the struggle is real today, but I took a bunch of cold medicine. I'm here because I have something that I'm pretty excited to talk about today. And that is, I think it's the social media platform that so many small business owners are ignoring. I think even those that are on it don't use it to its full potential. And I think you are missing out on massive amounts of revenue, massive amounts of traffic. I think that you 100% should be using this platform no matter what your business is. So, drum roll, that platform is Pinterest. So don't knock it yet. I know a lot of times I'll say Pinterest and people will immediately shut down. They have an idea. Either people love Pinterest or they hate Pinterest. And they tend to think they have a preconceived notion of if it's going to work for them or if it's not going to work for them. And I think it's really important to kind of give it a chance. What I did is I went through and I found a ton of different stats on Pinterest that I think are going to blow your mind. I really do. I think there is a market on Pinterest that so many people don't understand. I think that no matter what your business is, whether you're a service-based business or a product-based business, that there is a place on Pinterest for you. So I wanted to dive into some of the stats that I found that I think you're going to really sort of shift your mindset on Pinterest and maybe get you a little bit excited to try it out a little bit more. So in case you don't know, I do know that there are some people that aren't 100% sure about Pinterest, maybe that you've never used it before. But basically, think of Pinterest not necessarily as a social media platform, although we categorize it as that a lot. Think of Pinterest as a search engine. So it's a place where people can search for a solution to a problem. They can search for ideas and inspiration. They can search for images of certain things that they're thinking of, articles, and then they can basically take the results and pin them to virtual pin boards. So it's really valuable for a lot of businesses because not only are people interacting with your brand now while they happen to be searching for it, but a lot of times they're saving things and then going back and looking at them later. So it's a super valuable platform. And let me tell you a little bit about why. The first is that there are 175 million active Pinterest users a month. That's active. So these are people that don't just sign up for a board or sign up for an account and then forget about it. These are people that actively sign up and use this consistently, use the platform consistently. 75 million of those users come from the United States and 100 million of those users come from outside of the United States. And I think that's really important because I think especially sort of online businesses are starting to expand their reach a little bit more. This is a really great place where you can not only reach people geographically around you here in the United States, but you can also easily reach outside countries, especially sort of English-speaking ones that make sense for you. There are 50 billion pins on Pinterest, and there are 2 million shopping pins saved daily. So these are not pins that are they're not like ideas and inspiration. These are active shopping pins that people are going on to find. So let's talk a little bit about the demographics of Pinterest. 81% of Pinterest users are female. I think that's really important. So we tend to know that Pinterest is a female-driven platform, but 40% of new signups are male. So men are actually one of the largest growing demographic groups on Pinterest. They're one of the ones that are growing the fastest. And so I don't think you can necessarily ignore the fact that there are men on Pinterest. It is definitely majority female, but men are growing and they're up there pinning things. So of the demographics on Pinterest, the millennials are one of the highest groups on Pinterest, and they use Pinterest as much as they use Instagram. I think that's a really important stat. We tend to think of Facebook and Instagram as sort of like the king and queen of social media. You know, so a lot of times I hear people say, well, I use Instagram and that's where my audience is. Well, if you have an Instagram audience and that's really valuable to you, that audience is using Pinterest just as much as they're using Instagram. So you can't ignore this audience. The median age of a Pinterest user is 40. However, a majority of the active pinners are below 40. So I think that's important. That tends to mean sort of the average age of a Pinterest user is about 25 to 45 or so. That's a really sweet spot demographic for a lot of businesses. So female, median age is around 40, but most of the active pinners, so people that are on it a lot, are below 40. So there's a lot of millennials on there. They're using it daily. It's really, that's a great audience. The other thing that's interesting, so a lot of times we'll get to, people will say like, well, if it's younger, if it's millennials, they don't really have any money, they're not really going to be on there spending. But half of the Pinterest users earn more than $50,000 a year, and 10% of Pinterest users actually make greater than $125,000 a year. So really that kind of 50K and up, they have disposable income. They may not necessarily, you know, kind of on the lower end, may not necessarily have a ton of disposable income, but they have some. And because they tend to be younger, a lot of times they don't necessarily have a lot of the expenses that sometimes older targets may have. So they're not necessarily paying for college for their kids. They're not paying huge house bills yet. So they have this disposable income and they are spending it. So I then pulled some facts. So that's kind of the demographics of Pinterest. I then pulled some facts about buying habits on Pinterest. I think this is really important because a lot of people think, okay, so people are on Pinterest, they're pinning things, but are they actually going to buy? So here's some stats that I found. I think it's beyond amazing. 87% of pinners have purchased a product because of Pinterest. I mean, that alone right there is massive. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they only saw a product on Pinterest. It could be that they, you know, only saw your pin and that prompted them to buy. But they're saying Pinterest made their purchasing decision for them. 87% of users. So that's online purchases. 72% of pinners have used Pinterest to help them decide what to buy offline. I mean, those stats right there are massive. So people that are on Pinterest, there's a huge group of Pinterest users, and those people are on Pinterest looking for products and services to buy. They're using Pinterest to make their decisions for not only online purchases, but offline purchases as well. So just because you don't have an online store maybe does not mean that Pinterest is not for you. This is another really big one. So a lot of times we hear, well, you know, I don't have products. You can, you know, it's not necessarily for me. Over 5%, so businesses that use Pinterest as one of their social platforms or one of their main kind of marketing platforms, over 5% of all referral traffic to websites comes from Pinterest. I mean, you can't say that about Facebook. Hardly anyone can say that about Instagram. But to be able to say that 5% of your referral traffic is coming from Pinterest, clearly there's an ROI there for putting yourself on Pinterest. 93% of active pinners said they use Pinterest to plan for a purchase, and 87% said they've purchased something on Pinterest directly. So, I mean, that's a massive amount of users. So they've either used Pinterest to plan, 93% of active pinners use it to plan a purchase, so they use it for research, but 87% said they've purchased something directly through Pinterest. So they've clicked on a pin and they've purchased something through Pinterest. I mean, the stats right there are undeniable. 2/3 of pins that are there on Pinterest right now represent brands or products. I think that's also important to know too. It's not just inspirational quotes or ideas. There's actual pins there that are representing certain brands and products that people are pinning. So every day, nearly 2 million people pin product pins to their boards, and over 14 million articles are pinned every single day. So just because you don't have a product, while Pinterest is great for products and you can absolutely see value in it, just because you don't have a product doesn't mean that Pinterest isn't for you. If you are writing blogs, if you are doing videos, if you are creating content, Pinterest is your place. It's a place to pin, it's a place to get pinned, and it's a place to drive traffic to your website. And then finally, the last that I have is that the average time spent on Pinterest per visit is 14 minutes. It's 14.2 minutes. That's just a massive amount of time with our lack of attention spans nowadays. So if people are spending almost 15 minutes on average every single time they log on to Pinterest, I mean, you have their attention. They're there, they're searching, they're there to find hopefully you. So Pinterest is 100% something that you should be considering. It's really not scary. It's not overwhelming. It's free unless you start advertising on it. But I think you could really start to see a difference in traffic being driven to your website, products purchased, and so on, and hopefully more revenue. So don't discount it just because you don't necessarily think that it's for you or you don't necessarily use it yourself. If you sort of fit those targets, if your business fits that kind of like millennial, slightly older, up to about 40 female demographic, then there is no reason you shouldn't be on Pinterest. Whether you have a product, you can pin your individual products to boards, or whether you have a service, you can pin your articles, you can pin your blogs, your videos, things like that. So don't discount it just because you don't have online products to sell. So hopefully that got you a little bit inspired, maybe even to do a little bit more of your own research on Pinterest and see if it makes sense for you. If you want to know more about some social platforms, advertising on Pinterest, advertising on social platforms in general, the April masterclass in the Digital Marketing Hub is all about advertising. So we have some really cool content coming up. I'm going to put the link in the comment section. So if you haven't gotten a chance to join the Marketing Hub yet, you absolutely should. We had some really cool content for March. People were loving it, and they are already asking when April's going to come out. So April 1st, there's going to be brand new content in there. We're going to be talking about advertising. Our guest expert is talking about content. So she'll be breaking down how to write content that doesn't suck, which is hysterical to me. She's one of the best content writers that I know. So I'm super excited, and she's really funny. So I'm really excited to see what she has to say. And then our podcast is breaking down. We go into a little bit of SEO talk, but nothing scary. We just kind of go into a little bit of sort of how you can get some more reach on in search. And Pinterest is one of the ways to do it. So if you're just joining now, definitely go back and watch this. There are some really great things that you can be doing on there. So I'm going to throw that link in the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I am here to answer all of them. And hopefully I'll get to talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.